We got a few questions naturally, as we have the last several weeks, about Vince McMahon.
Oh, boy.
Before we get to any of these, have you caught up at all? Have you seen any of the latest installments of the WWE version of Tuesdays with Maury, Vince McMahon and Austin Theory?
You know, we said here a couple weeks ago, the only thing worse than Vince not seeing anything in you is Vince seeing something in you. Because now Austin Theory, my boy, what have they done to my boy? I said, this guy is incredible. What a prospect. He's got the body. He's got the look. He's got the size. He can work the little things. I would have loved having this guy in OVW. I would have pushed him to the moon because he's got all the little things that you either can't teach or sometimes it takes forever to teach. So naturally, they took him from NXT, rescued him from the Same Face family, Johnny and Mrs. Same Face. Now he's on Raw, but he has become Vince McMahon's pet project, who apparently from these vignettes, Vince is trying to teach him to have the killer instinct and go out and make something of himself. And Vince is threatening him with the pencil and the noted eraser. And there was another backstage vignette interaction with Vince and Austin Theory on Raw just last night, Monday night. And I watched this clip. And again, there's Austin Theory trying to do the best he can with what he's being told to do, but basically it amounts to nodding up and down and going, and yes, sir, and taking selfies of himself with things and people. But Vince was mad at him in this clip because apparently he had been defeated by Finn Balor in a match earlier in the show, and then after that, wouldn't you know, it's not just an epidemic, Brian, in AEW or in some of the outlaw promotions, but it's the WWE as well. It's the entire world of wrestling. There's Finn Balor doing an interview back in the back of the building, and here comes Austin Theory and tackles him. At least he got about 30 seconds out, though, not like in AEW, where they can't speak at all before they get attacked. Balor got about 30 seconds out. And then here comes Austin Theory and beats him up and runs him into the equipment cases. And, of course, immediately the announcer just backs up and becomes a mute, doesn't scream, "Oh, my God, help," or anything, just gets out of the shot. And all the damage is done. And then at least at the end, quality control in the WWE, they run in one referee and I think, who was it that was standing around? Somebody else in a suit to say, "Get the heck out of here." And then Austin Theory goes into Vince's office to tell him what he's done. Hey, even though I lost the match, that was a cold-blooded, ruthless attack that I just made on Finn Balor. And Vince says, yeah, but even though, and this is a quote from Vince, even though you beat, as we might say, the chocolate pudding out of him. So over on AEW, they're saying shitty McShit, shit face, shithead, beat the shit out of, you're a piece of shit, shit. And over in WWE land, Vince says you beat the chocolate pudding out of him.
Suffer and succotash.
And then he says, but I should, and I'm, by the way, he's not saying it with this much oomph and power and projection and clarity. He said he ought to fire Austin Theory because he loves firing people before the holidays. It makes him feel good, like he just had a good meal, gives him a warm. They're doing a parody of what people used to believe was the real Mr. McMahon because Vince was so good at being Mr. McMahon that people had those thoughts. And now they're parodying people who are probably writers who were children when he was Mr. McMahon are now parodying, Vince to where he's Ebenezer Scrooge and bah humbug. And it's a whole, and I'm sure he loves it too because, it's great shit, pal. But the clip that I saw, Brian, besides the fact that he brought the pencil out again and Vince tried to tear a piece of his legal pad off And he tore it in half. Instead, he couldn't tear the whole page off of the legal pad. It looked like Bobby Heenan doing the old phone book tear stunt where he would tear 3 pages and put it down like he was satisfied.
No, you know what it looks like? I swear to God. It looks like he's a fucking Muppet. It looks like the Vince head, the weird Vince head. It's like one piece, and then someone else is working the hands because he's always sitting and he's hunched over. So there's like a torso, and then there's just crazy hands going all over the place.
The hands are going everywhere.
I think it's Frank Oz working the hands, and someone else is working the Vince head. It looks nuts. It looks like someone else is doing his hands.
But who's the one that had to stick their hand up Vince's ass then is what I want to. But anyway,
Bruce.
He's got the paper.
It was Bruce.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, Bruce been able to get his hand up Vince's ass. His head is so big, and it's lodged there. So Vince scratches something he's written with a pencil. He erases it and then holds the paper up and blows the eraser shavings in Austin Theory's face. But here's what I was going for with what I was about to tell you was I saw this clip. It was sent to me, and apparently it was on YouTube, right? This wasn't a clip directly off. I don't know where it was directly off of, but the point is, without me doing it, the closed captioning for the hearing impaired was on this clip. And from the time it had the announcer that asked Finn Balor the question, and it had Finn Balor's response, and then you see the attack, and then it goes into the Vince's office, and you see him talking to Theory, and then it started having some trouble because, as we've mentioned, yes, Vince is it's some of it's under his breath.
Pencil.
And they were piping the crowd noise in really loud in this anyway.
Really loud. What
really
the hell
loud.
was that? Yeah.
I've been in Vince's office. He doesn't have a studio audience in the office, right? So they were piping the noise from the arena into this as some kind of background, but what it made it hard to hear Austin Theory. But it made it almost impossible to understand Vince because he's not projecting. He's got the gruff voice now, and it's under.
Yeah.
So I'm watching as I'm watching Vince trying to get these things out. My eyes are drawn to the closed captioning, and the closed captioning is not able to figure out what Vince is saying anyway. And one of the closed captioning statements was when Vince was first starting to read Austin Theory out about maybe he made a bad decision in seeing something in Austin Theory. He said, I didn't get to be a billionaire by making stupid business decisions, but the closed captioning, plain as day, said, I got to be a billionaire by making stupid decisions.
Well, that's actually true.
And then he starts going further, and all of a sudden the closed captioning while Vince is mumbling disappears, and then just one word pops up, inaudible.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
It's a pre-tape in an office. These guys, they're mic'd. It's a professional television production, but yet the closed captioning is reading it as the same thing as a fucking radio message from the space shuttle in outer space, inaudible. Or some kind of police surveillance video of the mob, inaudible.
Inaudible.
So that was... Poor Austin Theory. God almighty.
By the way, we get people that ask us, why does Travis's drawings of current Vince look like he has lipstick on?
Because he looks like he's got lipstick on.
To which I would say, what the hell was going on here? And that side shot of him, he looks completely nuts. He looks like he was built in Jim Henson's fucking Creature studio. He really fucking does. There were Muppets and then there were creatures that Jim Henson would build. He doesn't even look real.
I think if he was silly putty or Play-Doh, don't get him too close to a fucking heat source or he might start melting. But that would, yeah. I mean, I just don't know I just wish, and we talked about this last week on the show, I wish he would just take time off, retire, put his feet up, at least he's not a television personality anymore. And since he was one of the absolute best ever, it's disheartening now that younger people are going to see him now and say, this is the Vince McMahon that we've heard about that was so commanding. And as you mentioned, captivating or whatever. It's sad now. And I hate to see that. And I wish there was somebody that could tell him honestly, or had the balls to, whether he agreed with him or not, that would go to him and say, Vince, you shouldn't be on TV anymore. But nobody's going to do that. Well, what does Stephanie do anymore in that company? Do we know?
They gave her I think they shifted her position to another position recently. She was chief brand officer for a while, which...
Well, she shifted her position to another position. You mean she went from doggy style to reverse cowgirl?
That's not what I meant in any possible way. I meant she went from, I don't even know if it's senior VP, EVP, but head of this department to just do this now. And she was doing something else, I think. Although it's all basically the same. It's just Stephanie needs a job. Let's keep her doing something. She's good at talking to people who know nothing about wrestling. She's incredible at that. Like, if you knew you had an auditorium filled with people who know nothing about wrestling, send her to talk to them, best person in the world.
Yes, so you would think she would be the one to talk to Vince and say, Vince, come on. It's, I don't know.
Thank you, Moolah. You'll have no idea who she is.
Excellent question, Wendy.